Good evening. Welcome back to the Mancunian Way. My name is Martin. I'm your host, and welcome to a very special Maine Rose Days, episode 4. Good evening, Rich. How are you?
Good evening. Very good. Very good.
Good. Yeah. I don't know. Breaking news: Rich is doing 2 shows in a week. I don't know. But yeah, tonight we're going to talk about former Manchester City manager who sadly did pass away last week. Former England, Sampdoria, Lazio manager, Leicester manager, could have been Blackburn manager, but Manchester City manager during the 07-08 season, Sven Goran Erikson, who was a great man for the football family, football community, passed away. And we're just going to reminisce about his time at Manchester City. I know it wasn't Maine Road, but Maine Road Days is more of the history show that we do here at the Mancunian Way. So it's not always going to be about Maine Road. It will sometimes be just the history part of Manchester City. And yeah, Rich, what were your... How do you feel, obviously, when we got the sad news last week? We knew obviously, by the way, he had cancer. And I tell you what, I'm just going to move that. Sorry, it's killing me this at the minute. Go on.
I watched, he did a kind of last words recording to say goodbye to everyone. And that was only a couple of days before. So it really was, his last chance to say goodbye to, the world beyond his immediate family. And it was obviously very moving because, someone saying goodbye, but doing so in a way that they want to leave the world, thinking well of them and, thinking on the positive, not feeling sad about something. And, it was a strange character in that, he was a gent. He was really popular with the fans. The players loved him, but he was only with us for one season. And one season that had some really magic moments. I remember that first game away to West Ham that we won, going in, meeting up with some other Blues in Sydney in a venue I don't think we've ever been to before or since. And watching a whole lot of new players because we had Giovanni and Bojinov and Bianchi and all sorts of players coming in and just playing really good football. And a lot of that season, it's a bit like a mini version of Brian Horton in that there's a lot of good memories from that season. There were some bad performances too, and we ultimately didn't finish as high as we wanted, but generally he was a gent. And he, like someone like Brian Horton, who was obviously there a fair bit longer, City fans have fond memories of him, and generally City fans will always talk kindly of him because of that season.
Yeah, it was. Good evening, Mingy Wong. Thank you, mate, for that. Sven only managed City 1 year before taking over the Mexican national team. Yeah, we will go through his career in a minute. Rolando Bianchi, Martin Petrov. There was more than that, Mingy Wong, a lot more. Good evening, Adam Quinn. Good evening, DC. Hope you are well. Big up to Michael Feeney's back. You have been missed. We just need to get Muddy Duck back now, and we got the gang back together. So big up to Muddy Duck, and we hope to see you soon, mate. Jack Lee says, rest in peace, man. The game on Saturday was special because his first competitive game in charge was away at West Ham. It was. And I'm sure the Blues on the club will honour him when we get back at the Etihad for the Brentford game. Good evening, Steve Black. Good evening, BM. Evening, girl. Has the stream started? Yeah, sorry I was a bit late. I was waiting for Rich and Pat. Pat is coming on. He's just a bit late. Rich is always late. He was looking for the shirt that he's wearing now. So I don't know.
I'm just always late.
BM just wants to tell everyone a funny story, so we will go through it about Sven. So me and my friends followed Sven to the car after the fan rally after the Valencia game. There was a crowd. He was about to drive off. out of nowhere, I just jumped in front of the car. Silly boy. The driver screeched and bleeped. Sven put the window down and he was like, young man, what do you think you're doing? Could have been killed. Quite right. I went to the window. I was like, I'm sorry, Sven, Mr. Eriksson. I wanted your autograph. He was like, why don't you just ask rather than be crazy? You could have died. Asked him his name. And then he said, he was like, BM, listen to me. Promise you'll never do anything silly ever again. You could have been hurt. I want you to be fit and healthy to come to my game and support the team. Please never do anything silly again. And I was like, I promise, Mr. Eriksson. There you go. See, bit of advice from Sven.
And how many days till you next did something silly?
That's a good question.
Or did you turn your life around and live a life of sense ever since?
The lie button? What lie button? If I put in a lie button. Have I misspelled? Listen, have I misspelled something again? Hang on, right, hang on. Blue Art. Before we get going, you've got me wondering now. Have I done something? Hang on. What are you doing to me here, Blue Art? See what I mean, Blue Art? You've derailed the whole stream again here. What are you doing? Oh, yeah, like button. Yeah, I didn't say lie. What are you doing here, you? Blue Art, naughty boy, derailing it all. Just derailing it, aren't you, mate? Where Martin? I just bloody hell, calm down, lads. I hope you go Blue Art. Hope you well. Shinawat, Trot, and Cook were foolish to sack him. Yeah, we'll see. Well, they were foolish to sack him at the time, but we're going to go into it. We'll get into it all. Little did we know what was to come. SOS, good evening, Blues. No disrespect to you, but the ADG would have kept on Sven. I reckon Sven would have won the UEFA Cup. I'm not sure, because I'm not sure they would have kept him on. I think they already had one guy in mind. But we'll get into it. Spencer Mark, good evening, mate. City should have won the UEFA Cup that season. What, under Hughes? By the way, City Man says a book of condolence at the National Football signed it the other day. Thank you for that, BM. Appreciate that, mate. Good evening, Martin Rich and his dogs. You're loving your dogs, right?
Yeah, well, they're lovely.
They're not, they're loud. The documentary was so emotional. What a season it was. Yes, it was, Fee. It's on City TV. It was amazing. It was so good for that. That whole documentary was great, but it was great living it, and I hope people enjoyed that year we had. Rest in peace, Sven. My condolences to his family. Spot on. Really like Sven, but then again, who didn't? I think he had been given a lot longer. Just a shame Bozjanov got that horrible injury. Yeah, and of all teams as well, United. I remember fans queuing up at 2 a.m. to buy the third shirt, the white one with the blue stripe. First time in a while where City man, yeah, because the purple one was atrocious that season. Atrocious. We had some great games and a few poor ones sprinkled in, like Chelsea 6-0. I think the Chelsea 6-0 is when we'll get into it anyway in a minute. Sven was one of the few people Alex Ferguson never beat, including Pep, Pellegrini, and Bob Paisley. Jack, as a man of very little emotion, he was a ladies' man. I'm not going to go into his personal life. We're just talking football. I'm not going into football. Best signing Sven ever made, Benjani. No, it wasn't. Benjani never wanted to be here, mate. So he's best ever signing as we're going along. A little Brazilian superstar. Hello, Pardo Oaks. How are you, mate? The upside. Well, see, look, you're coming out. I knew you would, Blue Heart. Someone had to go down the Ulrika Johnson road, didn't you?
No, Blue Heart never went down Ulrika Johnson's road.
This is why I was trying to keep the personal life out of it, because I knew someone would do that. It was the saving man. He said my channel. Sorry, Brian. I thought I'd wrote lies instead of likes. Rest in peace, Sven. Certainly, AK. Good evening, Pat. How are you, mate?
Yeah, good mate. How are you? How are you, Rich?
Good.
That's the way.
Not bad. I am going to come to Conway, AK, and BM Super Chat in a moment. I promise you I will. Yes, Martin. Elano. Yeah, we're going to talk about Elano as well, don't you worry. Sven had such a full life managing many great teams and country. Yeah. Ulrika was under the weather. No. Anyway, right, Pat. Your initial thoughts on the on Sven?
Yeah, sad day for football. Sad day for all involved in Manchester City. Anybody who had any affiliation with him, For me, just going back for me, I remember some of the first memories of Sven was being manager of England, and without going too much down the whole Australia-England rivalry, remember that friendly that we played at Upton Park against the Socceroos where we battered you like 3-1, and it was that was like sort of my first memories of Sven and that too. But besides that, I mean, you look at the man just beyond just like the fact that we had a relatively good season 07-08, but you see just sort of what sort of influence he had on football, and going from being a manager, before he was barely 30, and taking Gothenburg to UEFA Cup, which back in the time was as important for European clubs as winning a Champions League, or the old European Cup as it were back in the day. And the style of football that he played, he imprinted on players and things like that. Just the influence he had. He had success in 2 different stints at Benfica, and and then of course what he did in Italy as well with I think it was Lazio, Roma, Sampdoria.
Yeah.
But Lazio, that incredible season they had where they won the league and cup double. During the times when you had Juventus and AC Milan and both Milanese teams just dominating football, for him to come in and do that. And we shouldn't forget as well too the influence he has on today's managers as well, because you had Mancini, you had Simeone playing in those squads back then as well. So it's just incredible when the more you learn about the man, just what sort of influence he had on European football going back the best part of 3 or 4 decades. So a special man, and my feelings towards him were nothing but great, just in the same way that we feel of him as a person. He was just an elder statesman, a proper gentleman. And, it'd be very hard to find anybody who would speak anything bad about him, to be honest, unless you're a friggin' journalist. But besides that, mate, nothing but love and respect for the man. And, it was just a shame we didn't get him as manager for a little bit longer at City. But, you take everything that you can get, especially coming out of the dark days, at City. So, just rest in peace to the man. And
you listen to some of the players talking about him. I mean, Micah Richards, was talking about him, and
that was a really nice tribute he did.
Micah's main point was mainly that most managers will pat you on the back and ask how you are, but Sven would actually stop and listen and really actually cared how you were. And Frank Lampard as well gave an amazing, and that was obviously as England manager, not club manager, but gave an amazing, stories about him and just how much he cared about the players, and how interested he was in people and how he motivated people by caring, as well as his tactical astuteness.
Yeah. By the way, I know he managed anything, but he was never. He wasn't Liverpool manager, mate. Because that was why he managed in the charity game, because he said he wanted to manage at Anfield.
Yeah, another thing that too was you said about, I think he handled the England job really well, given all the pressure that you get from fans and from the press as well too. And I remember there was one point there where I can't remember what tournament it was England were playing in, but he decided to play Paul Scholes out in the left or something like that. And his reasoning for it was because otherwise where is he going to find room for Gerrard and Lampard? Just spoil of riches basically. So, the man was sort of like damned if you do, damned if you don't, basically, which is, I think it's the case with a lot of England squads, over the years because of the amount of depth that they have. So, but he handled it well. And, again, like I said, an elder statesman and a true professional, just in the way he handled football, but also handled life as well. Yeah.
Right. I'm just going to do these and then we'll get rolling with it. BM, thank you for your lovely super chat. Really do appreciate that, mate. There's a book of condolence at the National Footy Museum. There is. Thank you so much. Conway, thank you, mate. I love the fact you gifted 5 memberships. very generous of you. It's not coming out your 10 grand. I really hope it's not, mate. But thank you so much. Conway will get that joke, and one or two others will. Conway, thank you so much for gifting 5 channel memberships. And AK has gifted 5 channel memberships as well, which we are going to do the draw on Thursday. Because I don't want to do it tonight. I'm going to do it on Thursday when everyone's here. And then I can give people the winner. Don't forget, will come on a show with Rich, Ozzy, and Pat. Run just by them this month in September. You will be picked out to go onto a show with them. So we thank you, and you made Pep so happy.
More than you believe. More than you believe, I'm happy.
So there you go. Thank you so much. Right, Sven Goran Erikson, just some little facts. He has managed, he started off, he's managed, now Pat, don't kill me on these pronunciations. Did start off at the Grofers, yeah. Gothenburg, Benfica, Roma, Fiorentina, as Pat said, went back for a second spell to Benfica, Sampdoria, Lazio, and then left Lazio to become the England national manager, to a point where it was the first time that England went to Germany and absolutely trounced them in their own back garden.
That was at Bayern's old ground, wasn't it? The old Olympic Stadium.
Yeah. You've never seen Emil Heskey look so damn good in England.
No. One of not Emil Heskey, one of City's youth players' dads.
Jaden's dad.
Yeah, just Jaden's dad.
Jaden's dad put on a good show there that day. Yeah.
We're not putting claim to fame. And then Manchester City, where he did average 1.51 points a game, then went on to become the Mexico national manager. Then had a short spell, and it was only a short spell, director of football at Notts County in the fraudulent takeover that everyone sadly believed. Just go and watch the Panorama documentary on that. Wow, eyes opening. Went on to manage Ivory Coast then as well. Then came back into management in England with Leicester City, where we did take a certain Michael Johnson, which we will talk about today. Then we came the director of football at Tero Sassana, director of football again in Al Nassr, obviously in Saudi. And then went and had a spell over. Was it Shanghai? Was it? He was at?
No, it was at Guangzhou first in China, and then
Shanghai. Then went on to manage the Philippines and finished his footballing career at Karlstad in a advisory role. Now, the honours that the man had, he has in his managerial career, he took Lazio to the Italian Championship, which is someone quite right, was the last Italian club to do that outside of the big boys. You know what I mean? Lazio are a big boy, but they're not talking Juventus and the Milan clubs. He also then in the same year won the UEFA Super Cup. He also won the UEFA Cup with Gothenburg in 81-82 when I was born. Also then took them to win the Europa Pokal Sieger Cup in 98-99, won the Italian Cup 4 times, twice with Lazio, once with Roma, and then once with Sampdoria. Won the Italian Super Cup again with Lazio. Won the Portuguese League 3 times with the Benfica, obviously in his 2 stints while he was there. And his first stint, he also won the Portuguese Cup with Benfica. Swedish champion with Gothenburg in 81-82, followed with 2 Swedish Cups, again, both with Gothenburg in 78, 79, 81, 82. Did finish twice up. Sorry, he did win a Portuguese Super Cup as well with Benfica. Finished Super Cup runner-up, UEFA Cup runner-up twice, Champions League participant twice, Swedish champion once, Swedish Cup winner, 1 Champions League participant, and that was 99-2000. Yeah. Sadly, never won anything with Manchester City. But I'm just going to give you a little bit of background. Manchester City in the 06-07 season had a manager in charge called Stuart Pearce, former England left back and a
Former City player.
proper hard man, right? Took over from KK because KK had enough and the money had dried up at Manchester City and City were in a lot of trouble at the time. Obviously, we had to sell the family silver, Sean Wright Phillips, with a £21 million deal off to Chelsea, where Sean Wright Phillips was crying leaving the training ground, didn't want to leave, was told you have to go or City were going under. Co-op Bank were calling all their loans in. We were owned at the time by David Wardle, John Makin, and I always find it weird. I say this to my son laughs at that. But I said JD Sports basically ran Manchester City, and you didn't know and realise that JD Sports were like basically Manchester City Football Club. Well, we had the JD family stand at Maine Road. If anyone remembers that, Rich
it was similar to what's his name? The guy just owned Newcastle before the Saudis.
He said of it being
with Sports Direct and all that. Yeah.
At the time, owners and chairmen weren't. No one cared about what businesses they had outside of football. No one was that. No one made a big thing out of it. So you never.
Come on, Peter Swales' TV rentals. Franny Lee's bog roll. Everyone went on about Franny Lee's bog roll.
No, but my point is, Rich, no one ever talked about JD Sports and Manchester City, did they? They kind of knew, but you had to.
Yeah.
No one looked into it properly. But yeah, and under Stuart Pearce, obviously, we had to sell Joey Barton as well to Newcastle for around £3 million. And we were in major trouble. We'd gone all the way from, was it December, January, right up until the end of the season. We didn't score a single goal at the time, was called the City of Manchester Stadium. And we were in a mess. And out of the blue, we suddenly got a takeover. It was very, very late in the window of the 07, back 2007, very late, summertime. And all of a sudden, we were owned by Thaksin Shinawatra, who suddenly, look at Rich now, he's reminiscing. Thaksin Shinawatra, who came in and promised us the earth. Promises we were going here, there, and everywhere. Basically, everything we're doing now was promised under Thaksin Shinawatra. And all of a sudden, Sven Goran Erikson appeared. And we were like, wow, this is the former England manager rocking up. And at the time, it was a big thing because this was now within a space of 3 years, we had 2 former England managers rocking up at Manchester City. Kevin Keegan. I think Stuart Pearce had a little bit of caretaking, but we didn't really class him as manager at that point. We try and forget Stuart Pearce's days. Good manager, but not very good. A good player, but not a great manager. But yeah. And we all went to, I don't know if anyone remembers, did everyone go to the GMX or wherever it was? And we all went down and went to a big old party in a warehouse. Sven Goran Erikson and Thaksin came out on stage. And if you thought the takeover day was mad, I mean, Rich, what was it? A week where we suddenly just signed everybody? We signed 4 players in a day.
Yeah. And it was mad because there was a Swedish agent running most of it. There was a Swedish agent who made that summer it was 20 million or something out of City because he basically ran everything. And Shinawatra only had his money for a couple of weeks before the Thai government at the time, because he was in exile, locked up all his money. So he had 1.5 billion or something, but within about 2 weeks, he had nothing apart from a couple of savings in his UAE bank account and everything else. And you know what? I've got a story, actually, true story about almost causing a City signing. I was.
Yeah, you nearly caused the
No.
I
I for some reason, and I don't know whether I genuinely don't know where it came from, whether I was just making it up or whether it was a thing. I had a thought about City signing Mark Bresciano, and I was chatting to Simon Hill. So I said to Simon Hill, is there anything in this City signing Bresciano? So he phoned up his agent and sort of asked him, is there any rumours in this? And his agent goes, no, there isn't, but he'd love to play for City. So apparently his agent contacted City, and the next day there's rumours in the press that Mark Bresciano is going to sign for City. And apparently we were talking to him, but that was at the time that we ran out of money and we had a 6 million deal or something he was going to sign. And the next thing, the deal was off because City couldn't pay for the thing. And that's when, that Thaksin started to run out of money. And that's probably when, people like Wardle had to start bailing City out because we'd committed to this massive spend and all these players. And suddenly there was no cash to bring in because the Thai authorities had locked up all the bank accounts all around the world. And by all accounts, Shinawatra had less than 50 million left, and his living expenses were probably, $1 million a week, the lifestyle he was trying to live. So it was a crazy time, but probably that's why we were signing so many players, because some random can just make up a rumor and next thing City are interested in any decent player. And amazingly enough, for a kind of crazy summer like that, a lot of the signings were actually pretty good. Normally when you do that, like United do that every summer, don't they? And they sign a load of rubbish. But we signed a lot of good players.
Garbage. No.
We signed a lot of good players. Yeah.
Well, Rich has just done the whole show, ladies and gents. So that's it. Game over. Good night. Bloody hell, Rich. Anyway.
Just a taste of what's to come tonight with Martin on the Mancunian way.
You know how much research I put into this, and you sat in and just done the whole bloody log.
That's old age for you, Martin. That's old age for you. You'll get there one day.
You can tell who does the show part-time and who comes in and does it full-time. You know what I mean? Part-timer. Anyway.
Now you see why I moonlight on so many other shows.
Gee, bloody ways. Someone mentioned Todd Grip. Todd Grip wasn't involved at Manchester City, as I remember. Wasn't Todd Grip. Can anyone remember the guy's name? Blonde-haired fella. Wasn't Todd Grip. I know everyone wanted to go to Todd Grip. The big man he had was Pasakala, kept him on. He was a major part of Sven's backroom staff. Can anyone remember the other guy's name? Yeah, I better trivia for you. Because I knew someone had come out with Todd Grip.
Nah.
Rich now researching.
No, I'm looking up something else.
No, you're not. Don't lie. Don't lie. Don't lie. Anyone in the comments? Taylor? No. Taylor? No, he was Swedish. I know. I'll be honest, the reason I'm asking is I couldn't remember his name. But it wasn't Todd Grip. It was, I'm trying to think, I was trying to look at it. Let me look if I can. I've been trying to look it up. It's the only thing I couldn't find. And I couldn't actually find it. It was someone that he had on his he was a biggish fella with blonde hair, but really flowing blonde hair. A really nice sort of set of hair, which I know isn't really going to help anybody.
If he's Swedish, he's probably Johansson.
Anyway, that's what I'm going to find out. Right. So what we did was we went on a major buying bust. We really did. And what we did was we brought in a striker called Rolando Bianchi for 8.8 million from, I'm sure it was Reggiano in Italy. He had gone on and scored 18 goals in Serie A the previous season. Didn't fare so well at Manchester City, but at the time was our big summer signing striking wise. We'd also brought a young Swiss boy called Gelson Fernandez for around 4.2 million, 4.5 million, something like that, who went on actually from have a brilliant career. Was signed from FC Sion. Hans Backer, thank you, Blue Art. You see, there's always a guy who comes in, SOS and Blue Art. Hans Backer. See, not Backer. Wasn't Todd Grip BM. Todd Grip was never involved at City. He never came in. Everyone thought he was. I think it was the one place he didn't come. And I don't know the reason why he didn't come with him. There was some reason Todd Grip didn't come. And I can't remember what it was.
Probably we ran out of money and couldn't pay him.
Because everyone thought Todd Grip was going to come, and I don't think he come with him. It was Hans Backer. It was Hans Backer and Basakla. That were the two main guys behind him. Because I remember him doing a massive thing on how important Fasakli was for Manchester City. Because Fasakli didn't leave when Keegan did, believe it or not. He stayed. I think Todd Grip went back with him, but I don't think he didn't. But anyway, we brought in, as we said, we also brought in a older Brazilian called Giovanni from Cruzeiro or Cruzeiro.
Cruzeiro.
All right.
Right.
Transfer at the time. Was a more thing. He only made 20 appearances. We then made nearly a £5 million signing in Bulgarian winger Martin Petrov, who I loved. I loved Petrov. Thought he was a fabulous player. Always remember the goal. I think it was Bolton Wanderers, where he just ran and he just did that. And his hands didn't move and he just ran with his hands up in the air like that. And I always remember him wearing gloves. He was one of them players who just wore gloves constantly. Do you remember the black gloves he wore? You won't remember it. So you call yourself fans. And then is when we went in our massive spray. Vedran Charluka, Javier Garrido, and Elano, then were all signed within the same day. Vedran Charluka, nicknamed Charlie, came in for around just under £12 million. Javier Garrido for 1.5 million, and Elano was an £8 million signing. I couldn't remember. Was it Shakhtar Donetsk?
Yeah.
It was Donetsk, wasn't it? I couldn't remember which one it was.
Yeah. Shakhtar Donetsk.
Charluka came from Dynamo Zagreb. This was all done by, at the time, our chief exec, who was actually Alistair McIntosh. There's a name from the past for you all.
And Charluka went on and had about 100 caps for Croatia.
That was the one. That was the one signing where I went, yeah. Also, we brought in a young Dane goalie, Kasper, not the friendly ghost, Schmeichel, the goalie. We also made a couple of signings in January. We brought in, and might have been a bit before, Swedish goalkeeper Andreas Isaksson came in. And we also got Benjana from Portsmouth, who, with all respect and intents and purposes, did not want to join Manchester.
Well, it was him. It was him and Caicedo that came in January, didn't they?
Caicedo did, yes. So yeah.
And Johnny was January too, wasn't he? I'm sure he was.
Caicedo was, yes. So yeah, we spent a lot of money, but as Rich and as we're going along, we promised a lot of money with a lot of payments. We basically, the best way I can put it in today in 2023 terms, 2024 terms, is we did a Barcelona to everyone. Rich, stop laughing because you know it's true. We basically bought a shit ton of players, promised everyone a shit ton of money, and we never kept up with payments. We ended up on £1 a week. Honestly, we were still paying for players when Sheikh Mansour walked in the door. The club nearly went bust again at the end of this. That's why we had to sell. But anyway, we'll digress for I'm giving away spoilers.
Yeah. And it was all coordinated by Jerome Anderson. who was a super agent who did nearly every deal, and he made an absolute fortune unless he never got paid for about 5 years.
Yeah.
So it's like basically we went out and said we want to sign loads of players. Jerome Anderson, go and get us loads of players, and he just went out like Richard Pryor in Brewster's Millions and just like spent.
Well,
everywhere.
we also brought Neri Castillo in from Shakhtar Donetsk as well, the Mexican, as I believe. Didn't play a lot at all. I think he played a couple of games. Like Pat, you say, Felipe Caicedo, the Ecuadorian. I'm sure he's still playing football, or am I wrong?
He was till quite recently, certainly. He was playing a couple of years ago.
Yeah. We did. This was the really funny thing. There was a signing we made who we bought for a lot of money and we loaned out in the same season. Does anyone remember it? If you remember, we had a striker who suddenly disappeared in January.
Who was that? Was that Bianchi? Did he go? Yeah.
Do you remember
After
he was
scoring.
homesick? He was homesick.
Well, he scored in the first game.
Scored on the opening game and then disappeared. Joe came in the year after, mate. Mark Hughes. Was it Mark? I'm sure Mark Hughes bought Joe. But anyway, yes, it was. Bianchi disappeared. He went to, I want to say Lazio. That's the only bit I don't know. I know he disappeared out. Paul Dickoff went back out on loan. He went I think to Blackpool. Kelvin Atuhu, Danny Mills we got rid of. We got rid of Bernardo Carradi. We got rid of Georgia Samaras.
Distan went as well, which I was really disappointed about at the time.
Oh.
Distan.
No, I think it was the year after this time went.
Was it? I thought he went that. I'm sure it was.
Might have been, you know.
Yeah, he went to Portsmouth.
Yeah, that was the year after, wasn't it?
No, I don't know. I don't think it was.
Can't remember. He's not on my list. Anyway,
I do remember Nicky Weaver going too, which was like it started, but yeah, sooner or later it had to happen. But yeah. And I think Trevor Sinclair went as well.
There was
Trevor Sinclair went too.
Was a few. Beno Benjani was bought for just under £4 million. I went to Portsmouth. I think we ended up paying a lot more than that. But anyway, we kicked off the season with a lot of belief, a lot of excitement. We'd spent money. City had gone a few years where we weren't spending money. Like I said, we were selling the silver. And I don't know if anyone, did any of you go to at the time Upton Park? It wasn't even called the Bowling Ground then. It was still called Upton Park. Love proper stadium, block of flats overshadowing it in the East End of London. Proper old school
stadium. This was opening game of the season, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, baking up day. And we went down there. We played in the white shirt and the blue sash. Lovely day. And we were fabulous. Now, you got to remember, this is a fan base that had not seen a goal for a very long time. They hadn't seen a win for a very long time.
That must have been like the perfect away day, I mean.
Oh, it was. It was.
Yeah.
And you know what did it was? It was watching the likes of Alano just roll across the pitch like he was like mesmerizing. It was like, what's this? Where's this been?
And before we'd just seen, you know, fat players like Jerry Craney roll across the pitch.
I'm not that big. I mean, wow, Rich. There's some
Are you Jerry Craney? I said Jerry Craney.
Sorry, not the word fat.
He needs a crane.
Yeah.
Well, not anymore, actually.
I've seen you in real life. Sunshine, Pot and Kettle come to mind.
That's right.
Anyway, this time was quality.
Actually, fair play to you, mate. You definitely don't need one anymore.
I'm trying to lose weight. What's your?
No, you are. Fair play to you. Fair play. Do
you know what I mean? On a diet, and he comes at me like that. I mean, my God. But yeah, no, we were glorious.
You got the Mancunian way.
I
We do not
always
encourage
remember
fat shaming in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah,
Literally.
Proper fat shaming here. But yeah, no, I always remember Bianchi back post coming in. Great goal. And then I always remember, like I said, the Nederman would run down that right wing. And it's on that documentary where Chris, obviously he hadn't been, and Chris Kamara suddenly goes back to him at Upton Park and he calls him, what was it, telescopic leg, where literally a Noah just runs out of energy and just throws his right leg out just to poke the ball to Giovanni. I do apologise. We're just interrupting Rich's meeting at the moment.
He's made a multi-colouring in book by the sound of it.
Yeah.
Are you doing paint by numbers there, Rich?
I am.
Have you got past the number 3?
17.
Bingo.
We've got to do Sesame Street. Today's number is 4.
The count. You've reminded me of the count. Brilliant. 1 goal. 2 goals.
You look like I was going to say something else. Anyway, you look like a count. Take the O out. Anyway,
well, at one point, Sven was nicknamed the Count, so it's on topic.
Anyway, and then obviously we cracked on, and we played Derby County. You remember? At home.
Yeah.
And we won 1-0 thanks to a glorious goal from a young up-and-coming Michael Johnson. Outside of the foot. Lovely. Lovely. Do you anyone remember who we scored against that day? Yeah, look at it. I've had all these questions ready and they're just not there, are they?
No, I don't fancy pub trivia at 7:23 in the morning.
Come on. You know.
I'm all right.
You know. I'm waiting.
We'll wait a little bit longer. Carry on.
Who was in net for Derby that day?
Not Scott Carson.
Nope.
Oh wait, no, he was at West Brom, wasn't he? Around that time, because we had that game against them where it was that. Oh well,
wasn't that Ben Foster? Oh,
Shea Given? No, he didn't. He went straight from Newcastle to us, didn't he?
Nope.
And that wasn't even. That was still like a season or two away.
Nope. Do you want to know?
Yeah, go on. Spill it out.
Well, actually, it was on the bench. It was Bywater in that. I was testing that. Bywater in that, Griffin Moore. I believed when it's someone called, who was the guy? Tracy, wasn't it? He's not Tracy.
Simon Tracy.
Pollard. Sure, Pollard was on the bench for them. I might be wrong though. It was Pollard. We signed him on loan, an emergency loan. But I always remember Michael Johnson. He was in the middle with Didi Hammam. You had Stephen Ireland, Petrov, Richard Dunn, and Micah Richards. Now, Richard Dunn did very, very well under Eriksson. I always remember Didi Hammam being very important to Sven. I don't know if anyone remember this, because don't forget, Micah Richards was a very young lad, just come out of the academy. Michael Johnson had just come out of the academy. Ireland was a youth player. So for me, we had that really good mixture of good new signings, exciting, with some really good youngsters that were up and coming. And not only that, these youngsters were going to be given their opportunity. And I remember Michael Johnson, and it was such a shame, we'll talk about that another time, but the what's he called? I always remember Michael Johnson. This is what my dad said at the time. Reminded him of Colin Bell, the way he glided across the pitch. Obviously, never got to the levels of Bell. Obviously, I never saw Bell. But my dad used to say it was as close to a Colin Bell as you're ever going to get.
Yeah, no, he was Johnson. Just he had so much potential, but
he did.
He just, yeah, you saw it in games, and then he'd be absent, and it was just a incredibly sad story, really, about, you know, I guess how fragile, like Lake, how fragile football is, you know, and how damaging it can be to young players who have the world at their feet, but then it gets taken away from them.
Right, Carroll. There was Pollitt as well, because I remember Pollitt being there. Might have been Right, Carroll being. But met Keegan. Keegan was a lovely guy, really nice. I never met Sven. But we beat Derby. First home game it was the first game we'd won, and the first game we'd scored a goal in. So there was a lot of excitement. The scary part came that weekend when we were then playing. So remember the derby being midweek. We then played United at home in the derby. And this is prime Man United now. I believe
this is Man United went on to win the Champions League that year.
Sure, it was. It was either that year or the year before they won it. Was it that year?
No, oh yeah, 08 they won it, yeah, because they made the final the following year, but then that's when they first met. They first came up against Pep.
Yeah, and I just remember that derby being so. I've never been at an atmosphere. I've seen some really big atmospheres, but that derby was electric that day. It was electric. And I remember Valery Bozhinov, sadly, for a number of reasons. I know he went on to have a really good. He went on to play, but I think his City career ended that day, really. But I always remember Valery Bozhinov. I got the impression his career at City had ended before it even got going. Because that was the day he did was it his cruise shirts? Was it his Chorley's cruise shirt he did?
Yeah, but he was you know, he was going to be the next Georgie Haji or Hristo Stoichkov.
Yeah, they had big hopes for him.
Yeah, he was by far the biggest exciting signing we had, and he showed signs of it in the first couple of games. He showed signs. Here's a player who could probably since Georgie, you know, more than a decade earlier. It's probably the last time there'd been a buzz like that out of a player other than, you know, someone like Johnson who came from within. And so it was devastating when, his career was over in a couple of games for City.
Yeah, and it was placed by, I believe it was either Bianchi or Impenza. Anyone remember? I totally forgot until last week when I was looking at this. Emil Impenza came on. And it was very early on, as I remember. I'm sure it was very early that he got subbed in. It was about the first 20 minutes, maybe a bit early, where Bozhinov did it. And I'm sure it was Impenza who came on. Because I remember Impenza scoring for Sven at Craven Cottage. And I'm sure he scored at St. James's Park as well. But anyway, that day was when we beat United. I'm talking, there was Tevez, they had Giggs, Scholes, they had the back line of Ferdinand and Vidic, if you remember them. And we beat them thanks to a Giovanni goal past Van der Sar.
Banging goal too.
The noise. It was like we'd gone from Stuart Pearce not scoring a goal, and I believe we were top of the league after 3 games.
Flying.
We were flying. We scored 4 goals in 3 games. We beaten them.
3 clean sheets. And
we were flying. And it was just, we were all in a little bit of a pinch ourselves moment. If I'm going to be honest, the best way I could probably describe it is we were riding the crest of a wave at that point.
It was, for me, that derby was, because I remember the season well because it was right in the depths of when I was, you know, spending most Saturday and Sundays promoting about half a dozen nightclubs around Sydney, because back then Sydney nightlife was some of the best in the world. But I do remember the game vividly. It was on at about 10:30 on a Sunday night for us. So usually by then I'm probably my most alert all weekend because I'm usually just taking it easy on a Sunday after quite a few days of intense night outs. But I do remember listening to that and watching it on the TV, and I remember thinking like that atmosphere and the hype around that game was on a level with what started it for me back in 2002. That was the closest thing I had to remembering to the atmosphere. That was the closest the atmosphere had been to what it was from the last Maine Road derby. It was just the hype around it was huge. And I remember after the game, it was just like I just felt like for the rest of the week I was floating on air. It was unbelievable. I tried my best not to get ahead of myself, but it was like I did have these little delusions of grandeur in a way for the week.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I remember getting a little bit ahead of my station, like top of the league. I know we've been there before, very early on. I remember being there with the Keegan when we beat Blackburn when Seaman was in goal. I think it was Seaman's last ever game at Sir. And he only played about 3.
The time I most remember being top of the league was, I reckon, was about 1991 or something, about then. And we won our first 3 games. We beat Liverpool. We beat Liverpool at Anfield, I think, and we were top of the league. Or maybe it must have been Liverpool at home, actually, because I think it was way before Anelka. And we were top of the league after 3 games. And I remember all you saw it was in the newspaper because there was no internet or anything like that. I remember getting the newspaper and you'd just be looking at it, City top of the league, probably the first time in 30 or 20 years supporting them or whatever.
Yeah.
No, Rich, my memory of that derby was I went to my local pub here, the Crest at Sylvania, to watch it. And of course, their closing hours were basically around about, say, 10:30, 11 p.m. And I was kicking and screaming with the manager, saying, "Please, just let me stay till half time, and then I'll go and try and find somewhere else." So I was like, "Yeah, okay, sure, that's fine." So they let me stay in the pub by myself to watch the first half. As soon as the final whistle went, ran straight down in my car, drove down to Miranda Hotel because they were open for about an hour and a half later than the Crest was, and I watched the second half there. The only person in 2 pubs.
Yeah.
It was a good day, but as you're going to say now, Martin, we got a quick. We came down to earth pretty quickly. The next
we did because we went on to back 2 defeats. Simo Sup, thank you for renewing your membership for an 8-month, mate. You are a superstar.
More than you believe. More than you believe, I'm happy.
Cheers, mate. Really do appreciate that. And you just said it there. Sinjai and Samo still in our books in Sven season. No, they went out. BM is my point. They did go out. that year, because I know Bianchi left, I think it was January, because he was homesick. I remember him being homesick. But yeah, you just said it. We went and lost 2 games on the bounce away at Arsenal. I'm sure it was a very new Emirates as well, though. And we also lost at Blackburn 1-0. Both lost each game 1-0. And we came back down to earth with a little bit of a bump. Went on to beat Villa, drew at Fulham, beat Newcastle and Middlesbrough in a 3-1. Now, I need to talk about Newcastle Middlesbrough because I'm not going to do every game. We'll be here forever. But I always remember those 2 games for a very big reason. Alano in both of them games was special. Obviously, you've got the goal against Newcastle, the free kick where he just arrowed it.
That was
a
frozen rope. That's what that was. The way he hit that was a frozen rope.
That was what you call a Martin sweet left foot move. The way he hit that free kick was by Alano. And I'm sure Alano scored against Middlesbrough, but I remember Alano, it wasn't so much a special goal, it was more the way he ran the show against Middlesbrough. He ran it. He orchestrated the whole game. And I loved it. I thought it was just fabulous that day, Alano. But yeah, it was good. Both really good 2 wins, 3-1. It might not.
That was the game. That was the game of the goal of the goal of the decade, wasn't it?
2 free kicks.
Well, those 2 games, I think that was probably the reason why you actually see quite a few Alano shirts now. If anybody bought shirts the latter part of that season, they would have all got Alano on the back.
It was that goal.
He became a fan favorite very, very quickly after that.
Yeah. Someone's asked me We're going to be done by 11 o'clock, so no one worry. We will be done, I promise. We're not going to keep you here all night. But Lano would love to have that sweet left foot. I'm sure Lano scored 2 free kicks.
Yeah, Martin Petrov had a sweet left foot, like Martin. He was just a little bit quicker.
Like Care blew out.
Yeah.
Alano was just an amazing player. But like you said, and then the first biggest disappointment of the season, we went to Chelsea and we got slapped 6-0. Our biggest hammering of the season. Samaras was still at the club, like BM said. He did. I'm sure he went out. It was towards the end of the season, but he did go out. I always remember that season. Do you remember very early on, we kept changing the goalies? We had a little bit of Casper, a little bit of Joe Hart. We even, in the second half of the season, is when he brought in Andreas Isaksson. So I remember, like, was it 4 or 5 different goalies that season? I mean, it was like Sven couldn't get his goalies right.
Yeah. Hart went to Birmingham in the end, didn't he? And had a stunning season because he decided on Casper over Hart. But then I think Casper, I think he got injured. Maybe he had a loss of form. But then there was a bit of uncertainty later because I think everyone was a bit surprised that Casper was chosen as the man because Shea went as well, didn't he? Because wasn't he there at the beginning? And we had Hart, Casper, and Shea, and he picked Casper, and everyone thought it was going to be one of the others. Well, and then Casper did right. He did okay.
At the very start of the season, it was Casper Schmeichel in there. And then I'm looking, I'm sure it was still Schmeichel by United. It was. When did Joe Hart come in? Was it Arsenal? Or did he go out?
I thought he got loaned out that season.
No, Joe Hart did play. No, he did play. He came in.
Was it the season after he went to Birmingham?
Sunderland. Oh, because it started out Casper, then it went to Joe Hart, and then I'm trying to look to when we changed to Andreas Isaksson. See, we went to Isaksson. Isaksson was then in net by December. So from August to December, we had 3 goalies. We changed our goalie 3 times.
It was a couple of years after that he went on loan.
No, he did go on loan, but
it was 2009 he went on loan.
We did start the season with Casper, went to Joe Hart, and then went to Andreas Isaksson. This was all by December. Don't remember that?
Yeah. I actually thought Isaksson was all right. He was a big lad.
Yeah, he was brought in for the Swedish.
Yeah, but he was, mind you, we had so many goals. When you think about us in the 90s
Swedish
and 2000s,
manager, Swedish goalie,
we were like 2 goalkeepers a season for so
thank
much
you,
time.
Spencer Marks put this. Joe Hart explained each goalie was given 7 games each and then picked out, he explained on CB. Thank you. Appreciate that. I've not seen the Sven documentary, so I need to watch it. I haven't watched it all. I saw a little bit with the Richard Dunn interview where Richard Dunn, which we'll talk about in a bit, where he was going to go on strike for the Middlesbrough game. They weren't going to play it. They were going to refuse to play. But Sven said, "Don't do it for you." So there you go.
I still remember the Chelsea game. I think Shevchenko was there, wasn't he? Who still? I think Shevchenko today holds the record for if inflation's factored in, the most expensive signing still in Premier League history.
Joe Hart scored against us. Kalou scored against us.
Joe Cole, you mean?
Yeah, and Shevchenko scored in the last. He scored in injury time. It was Michael Essien, Drogba, Joe Cole, Salomon Kalou, and then Andrei Shevchenko. And we were dog awful. We got slapped 6-0.
Yeah. That was when I truly back down to earth. Yeah.
That was when Fox did Fox still had the Premier League ratings. I watched that in the Fox studio
I
in Sydney with Spencer and Simon, and I just remember Spencer Pryor, bring out the dead, bring out the dead. and my memory forever of that day will be Spencer Pryor just to Simon and me, bring out the dead, bring out the dead.
Bring out your dad.
We were absolutely awful.
Can I ask you a question? Jason Lynn, you might be able to mention, when did Daniel Sturridge come in? I thought he was under pace. Or was it Sven? Did Pace bring him in and Sven played Sturridge?
I feel like Sturridge, just going back a while, he couldn't be that old, surely not.
Well, he can't. Yeah, I'm sure. I'm almost certain. Like I said, it's 20. No, it's
just checking it now. No,
Sturridge.
Sturridge was in the academy from 03 to 06. And then he went, and then 06 he came up. So maybe he had okay, maybe he did, yeah.
It was on the
I didn't realize it was that long ago.
Yeah, no, it was. Can I ask you a question? Because obviously we know how the season finished, and we'll get into that in a minute. When do you think it went wrong for Sven? Do you think it was the Thaksin stuff? Because I seem to remember by about Christmas, going into January, February, when we started to hear stuff about Shinawatra. When do you think it started going off the rails for Sven?
I think the first murmurs might have been, remember around Christmas time, I think we had a bunch of draws.
Mm-hmm.
We had a bunch of draws, and then I think we started the new year with a win away at Newcastle or something. And then that's when we started getting a bit crap.
We drew at Villa, drew against Blackburn, and we drew against Liverpool.
Yeah. I mean, draw against Liverpool could probably be justified a little bit, but yeah, I think when we got to January, I think apart from maybe like one win, could have been Newcastle away or something. That's when we started getting, you remember our form was actually really, really poor going into Old Trafford. Do you remember that?
I actually think it was much earlier. I think that behind the scenes it was starting to unravel almost as the season started, because we actually were starting to run out of money before the transfer window even closed. Was when Thaksin first got, and I think Bozhinov getting injured. I think Bianchi was less than 10 games in before he was, upset about being in the country. So I actually think some of the problems started almost before the first game, and I think they slowly built from there. We ran out of money, which meant that we then couldn't do much to fix things up in January, and we had a lot of players. When you get a few bad results with a whole new team, it's very hard to galvanise them and get them back together. And Bozhinov was the star signing, and 3 games in or whatever it was, he's suddenly out. Bianchi was, wanting home and wanting out, 5 or 6 games in. So I suspect the troubles really began, that United game, or even, with Bozhinov's injury, or even before.
Do you think it started that early?
Yeah, I think, that's... I think fundamentally, as soon as his money started to get locked up, Thaksin's mind's then on other things. We then haven't got money, so the behind the scenes, they're then, tapping up Ward or whatever, we can't pay our wages, can you come and help? And a lot of that stuff was going on behind. And then you've got injuries, you've got your 2 biggest signings, one wanting to go home and one injured. So I think there was a lot of stuff quite early that kind of dampened the momentum, and started to cause issues.
I'm just checking. Daniel Sturridge didn't come in until 9-10. The 9-10 season. Or roughly about 08, 09, he was with the under 18, so about 9, roughly in that year.
I don't remember seeing him much that season.
It wasn't with City for long. Believe it or not, he was only with us for just over 3 years. And 2 of them were in the youth academies. Alano, why did we sell him? we're coming to this, Denton. We are going to come to this because, Rich, you just hit the nail on the head. We started having major cash flow problems about halfway through. I think, like I joked earlier about Barcelona, we ended up like Barcelona. We'd made so many promises when we'd signed these 10 players. And then we even doubled down and went and got Benjani and Caicedo and Neri Costello. And you think about it, Benjani comes in, and everyone comes in, and we weren't keeping up with payments. Thaksin, I think he kind of knew early on. Now, I'm guessing now. But like Rich said, I think he kind of knew his assets were about to get frozen. There was murmurings. Because if you remember, Thaksin Shinawatra was at every single City game early on. He was at all the games. And then all of a sudden, he just disappeared. And you never saw him.
Well, he was worried he could be extradited from Britain. He went to the UAE. He went out to the UAE.
First, who was the guy at Chelsea? Abramovich. He was the first Abramovich, technically. He nearly got, like you said, kicked out of the country.
Well, except he was far worse because he was actually the leader of a country that had had a coup against him. So he was like Abramovich crossed with, some South American leader. I mean, it was, Thai politics is, you could do 25 shows on its own. And the irony is he's just getting out of jail after a deal with his former enemies because someone new's come up to try and do a Thaksin in Thailand. So Thaksin's got together with his former enemies to try and stop.
Now hasn't he got a daughter who's involved in Thai politics now or something?
Yeah. She's one of the in the government. Yeah, but it's just hilarious. Martin's on mute. He's making some really good points about Thai politics.
No, I am. His daughter is now the Thai Prime Minister. Or lady, whatever it is. Thaksin went into prison, and I'm sure recently he's just been proven that he was falsely put in prison.
Yeah, he got a deal when he came back. When his daughter was in charge, he got a deal where if he served like 2 minutes in a prison he owned for himself.
You can't say at the beginning when his daughter was
like Goodfellas, yeah.
Yeah. Well, no, but he's basically got a deal where he does a couple of weeks in the family prison, and then he's clear of everything because the two former enemies in Thai politics have come together because they've now got a new enemy that they're more scared of. So the people who he was fighting against are now on his same side with him because that's Thai politics.
Maybe we're used to false accusations against our owners. I'm quite surprised when they got 155 charges or something. Just have Thaksin's on. We'll be all right.
Yeah.
No, but in all seriousness,
I suspect in Thai politics, in Thai politics, most allegations probably aren't false on any side, but it's
the biggest highlight for me, and it was, I remember like people going to say the derby in February 10th was it the 50th anniversary?
Sorry, Munich. Yeah, 50.
Munich, 50. 50. It was 50.
Yeah, Old Trafford, yeah.
And I remember the build-up all week was going to be City fans were going to be dickheads and we were going to ruin it. And we were going to be absolutely...
That was one of the first times where we truly were under the media microscope, weren't we?
Yeah.
Like at least for modern day football, yeah.
Even Ferguson and Robson and everyone else had made a big thing about we need everyone here. Don't do it. And they were all expecting City fans to go in and be absolute dickheads and ruin it. And Luke TV said this, so big up to him. Said, I think Sven made a big issue here because I remember Sven doing an interview, and I'm sure he put something in one of the fanzines or something in a program about don't let yourselves down. It was either in the MEN, there was some Sven put a plea out of don't upset, don't do this to yourselves. And we went there And I remember
before you carry on,
Richard
Mark, which is
Keys.
good because you want. I think it's almost like a perfect timing thing, because if there was ever a manager to make sure, like, do the right thing, just put yourselves in a good light, it was Sven Goran Erikson.
Yeah, and not only that, I remember Richard Keys, because I remember the big build up to it, and there was a lovely video package played on Sky. And I remember Richard Keys said, "We need everyone," and this was an exact quote. He said, "Everyone," and I mean everyone, to be. And we all knew where that was aimed at.
Mm.
It was aimed at the 3,000 City fans that were in that corner. Do not muck this up. Do not show yourselves up. And I've got to say, when the Flowers came out and Ferguson and Eriksson both laid those reefs down, and all United put up their red scarves, and we put up our proper old school blue flags. United went and wore their retro kit. We wore a kit, but without a sponsor on it that day. Just plain blue. And I'm telling you now, and BB, you're spot on. People do forget a City legend in Frank Swift passed away in the Munich air disaster, but idiots want to be idiots and forget a City legend passed away in that. Yes, he was a reporter for the MEM, but he was still Frank Swift, City legend, that passed away. One of our own went in that. It wasn't just, yes, it was a United, but it was a Manchester, and it was a football tragedy that day. Matt Busby.
When you look at it,
we can go on. It was a loss for the setter.
Yeah, just quickly adding to what I liked about it was quite poetic, because the day was probably pretty much all of it was about United, but then we also remember just that one man in his affiliation with City as well. And I find it quite poetic that even in a sea of red, there was still that acknowledgement for that one blue that had an involvement in it as well too. So yeah, it was quite poetic in a day, the way that it was handled, and fair play to both sides. Actually, I think it was
this
a very,
is what
very
annoys
well
me
done day.
about this. City have no history, City and all this. I'm not trying to use the Munich disaster as to prove the point. The point I'm making is here: City fans who speak about Munich, please remember, two of our own were in that. And I know Matt Busby's famous for the United. I know he is. I'm not stupid, but he was a City guy before he was ever a United guy. And sadly, because the media don't tell you this, and they're not, it's like Don Revere. Yes, he's famous for Leeds, but he was at Legion. He was at City before Leeds as a player.
Yeah. If you actually
Dennis Law was a red and blue sandwich, or blue and red sandwich.
Yeah, but he
was very thin bread. If you listen to some of the stories,
no.
But still, stories from the United players, and they'll say that the people of Manchester looked after them far better than the club did after Munich. I mean, I remember listening to an interview with one of the players who was saying that basically, after Munich as a survivor, and career hadn't gone that great afterwards, but the taxi drivers of Manchester would give free taxi rides, and landlords in Manchester would give a free meal and stuff, and just saying it wasn't just United, it was United and the City, it was the people of Manchester looking after them, whereas the actual club looked after them for about 12 months and then left a lot of them just hanging with nothing after it. And there's a lot of, from the players involved in the accident, that didn't go on to be part of 1968 and everything else. So there was quite a lot of bitterness about the way the club treated them, whereas the people of Manchester, blue and red, looked after them because it was a Manchester accident. A lot of them were Manchester lads, and all relatively local, and it was a tragedy felt by the whole city.
Which is why, Rich, we call them rags. Well, not for the Munich thing, but I'm talking about why we've helped them in the past, because we gave them second-hand kits.
We have helped them on a number of times.
When Old Trafford was bombed. So you think there's always a story behind the thing.
And earlier as well. And, they nearly folded a couple of times well before the war, and got helped out by City.
Obviously, before we come to the final part, we're going to end in 5 minutes. Cup runs, West Ham. In the FA Cup, we did lose away at Sheffield United in the 4th round of the Cup. In the League Cup, we got all the way to the quarter-final.
Was that the one with the balloons and the goal? Was that the Sheffield United game? Was that in the league when there were all the balloons on the pitch?
Oh, that was Liverpool.
No, there was a game against Sheffield United with hundreds of balloons
remember.
And stuff, and
I know in the League Cup we beat Bristol City
through.
away, Norwich at home, Bolton away, and we went out to Tottenham at home. Believe it or not, in that one. But yeah, that was in the League Cup. But anyway, just to think, then the rumours started going on. And the rumours started coming out that Sven was in a bit of trouble. It wasn't a shock what was coming on because we didn't finish the season very well. No. We got beat at home to Fulham in that very famous game where Fulham were down at half-time. We were 2 up at half-time, if everyone remembers. Coasting the game. Could have been about 9-0 up. And I don't know why Roy Hodgson just decided you must have given the most inspirational speech ever at half-time. And we came out just thought the game had won. And Danny Murphy, and was it Kamara? What's he called? Something Kamara? The guy who went like that on the goal celebration. What was he called?
Yeah.
Mustafa Kamara.
Anyway, I can't remember. It was called Kamara anyway, and Danny Murphy. Basically beat us 3-2. I think that was it. I think that was game over at that point. I think that Fulham game was I think people knew because for some reason I don't think we took our foot off the gas, but there was something weird going on. Then we went away to Anfield, got beat 1-0, and then I've heard he knew, and apparently it's been said in one of the documentaries, he knew. No, it wasn't Titi Kamara. It began with a K. That Kamara. I know you mean with a Titi Kamara. I know who you mean. Apparently, I heard he knew at Liverpool away that he was gone. He'd been sacked by Liverpool away. And that was why Richard Dunn said to him, we're not going to play the Middlesbrough game. Because you remember when we went to Wembley in the FA Cup and Mancini knew he was sacked that day? Yeah. I think Sven knew at Middlesbrough he was gone. The fans knew. We all clapped. The players, listen, we get laughed at my rivals in 8-1. Please do.
Yeah, before Arab Money meme you see all over internet.
Yeah. It wasn't 8-1 because we were crap. It was 8-1 because the players just gave up. They didn't want to play. We had signs up, we had banners up, and then sadly it just and then believe it or not, by the time that game had finished, it was done, dusted, and then you never hear of Sven at City ever again. Now it's sort of gone, but he was a legend in football. He's done some amazing things. He was meant to come back to City, but yeah, football lost a great man from the footballing world. Obviously, nobody knew him personally, but a great man from the footballing family, a great personality. Last week, due to pancreas, I'm sure it was pancreas cancer. But and not only that, the one thing I can give him, and this is just watching him as a human being. Like I said, I didn't know him, never met him, but the bravery he showed in the last few weeks. He was so brave and open, and he just went, "Yeah, I know I'm going to die. I know, but you face it." He didn't mope. Didn't get on it. He got on with it.
He was at peace with it, and I think
he just accepted it.
For any of us, if we can, go out at peace with ourselves and the world, then I guess that's all you can ask for. and you saw the interview. He was at peace. He'd accepted it. He'd obviously said to all the people that mattered what he wanted to say, and he was ready. And I hope one day all of us are in that same position, and you go like that. And he obviously did leave. All the stories about him from the players are personal ones about him as a person, not so much him as a manager. So he obviously left a legacy with a lot of people that was what people remember and what they care about. And that's, again, that's all you can ask for, really.
I think that's great, Pat. He never seemed upset or angry. I mean, maybe we don't know privately because we don't know what he did, but he never seemed bitter or like, how's this, why me sort of thing. He just
there was never a woe was me moment with him. Yeah.
I think that shows the kind of
an absolute gentleman, and take a lot of bravery, knowing a lot of bravery, and a lot of guts, knowing that your time is coming, but you're going out the way you want to. And again, we there's so many people out there say cancer's still a bastard, we can't stand it, and it's a horrible thing to have, and hopefully one day we find a cure or a treatment for this horrible disease. But just as much too, we can also look back on the time that we have with these wonderful people, and give so much joy to the game that we all love and things like that. And he'll always be a student of the game, but he'll always mean so much to football fans as well. So rest in peace, Sven.
Yeah, it was. It was just a credit. It was a credit to football, a credit to Manchester City. What I always say? He brought back a smile to Manchester City fans. That's probably the best way I can think of. He brought a smile back to us.
Do you know what he did? I think that season, given what had happened the last couple of years, it was such a huge change. It was exciting. It was entertaining in a way. I think, the football that he brought to the club as well too, given everything that was happening in the back room, let's ignore that for a second. But when you think about what the way we've been playing for the last couple of seasons, I think if Premier League had a most improved sort of team for 07-08, it would definitely be Manchester City, because not only did our performances improve, but I think we just played a lot better football, and I look back on those days, and that was some fun times. We enjoyed ourselves, and obviously the biggest highlight from the season was doing the double over them lot. So, that's something that we hadn't seen for decades basically. So, that's something we can always remember him by, and been a big part of that as well. But I just remember it actually being quite an entertaining season, and that's the main thing for me. If we're not winning, at least I want to be entertained, and that's exactly what I got from Sven's small time that he had at City.
Yeah, no, and I just. Yeah, it's just amazing. I'm just going to go through some of these and we're going to end. Yeah, City, we're back on the map with Sven. Lovely stream tonight. Well, no worries, Pardo. Appreciate it, mate. And thank you for turning up. I know you've got to go, mate. I'll speak to you.
I've got to shoot. Take care. Speak soon. Cheers.
But I just want to say,
take care, mate.
Tonight isn't about, I know we said it the likes, but it's not about, this is about, we will always pay our respects to City and the legends. And I just think, He went out with dignity. He went out of the world the way he went out of the City job, with a lot of dignity and pride. And that says a lot about the man. Obviously, with people got private lives. That's why I said don't care what goes on in your private life. Everyone's got a private life. If Sven Goran Erikson was manager of City today and they found out about his past life or in his personal life, you'd have some fans having to go with him. Why? It's like, why? I cared about what he does. The guy had dignity. He went out with pride. He probably didn't go out the way he wanted, but I thank him for bringing a smile back to Manchester City fans. And it sounds weird. We always look at Paul Dickoff as the catalyst to this journey we're on now. Sven's part of this journey. Sven's part of this journey because we got in Europe that season because of the Fair Play League. We got back in Europe under Sven. Yeah, it wasn't positional wise, but we finished in the top 10.
Yeah.
And we'd been really good with the cards and we got in. And not only that, I always think and because of that, the players weren't dirty that season. That's because they had a manager who was, the best way I could put it is our players that season played like their manager thought and was. They literally mirrored their manager onto the pitch.
Yeah. Play good football and carry yourselves with class and dignity.
And respect. Class,
And
dignity,
respect,
and respect.
Mm.
And he had it with the fans. He had it with the players. And that's why the players were so angry when he got sacked. Because you don't get many managers who are liked by their
He was a player's manager.
Yeah.
He truly was, yeah.
He was a man's man.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, but honestly, thank you to everyone who's joined us. It wasn't about the channel, it was about paying our respects. We did it with Francis Lee. We'll do it with all City legends. It's not even about how long they've been. It's about being on this journey.
Can I mention something as well too? I said at the top of the show. Don't forget, probably his greatest success was doing that League Cup double in 2000 for Lazio. Who was in that team? Roberto Mancini. What happened 4 years later?
Wasn't he at Sampdoria with him as well?
I believe so. Yeah.
Sure, he was at Sampdoria with him.
I believe so. Yeah.
Mancini was there.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments.
This sort of thing goes full circle. It does. It does. Football's a weird and wonderful game.
Book condolences are at the Football Museum in town in Manchester, opposite the Print Works. Go down there, opposite Next in the Print Works and opposite Starbucks. Get over there, get in there, and yeah. But rest in peace.
They must have put that book out after I'd left, yeah, because otherwise I definitely would have gone down there.
And trust me now, the Blues were fantastic at West Ham on Saturday. But I tell you what, wait till the Etihad against Brentford, because we will honour the man.
Yep,
we will honour the man. So yeah, I'm not going to end with our normal thing. I am going to say this. I know it's thing, but football prizes. Don't forget, this does end tomorrow. Last chance, 7:30. Win a chance of a Roderick treble winning shirt. $3.95 a ticket. What a prize! Footballprizes.co.uk. It is UK only. We'll get over there, show them a lot of love, an amazing prize for an amazing competition. But yeah, Manchester City have lost part of their family last week. Rest in peace, Sven. And we're not going to end the normal way. We're just going to put our mics on mute and we're going to end with this. Good night, everyone. And we'll see you Thursday night.